What's up, guys? It is your girl, Sarah from Sarah Styles, here with Christina from KittenbStyle. You recently
Hello.
changed that. I
I
tried to
did.
tag you. Yeah, it used to be
Yeah.
Boutique, and I was like, oh, she changed
Yeah. I'm
that.
starting a blog, so I changed it because I thought, the blog was going to be more broad than boutique. So, yeah.
That makes sense. And I kind of wondered if you were like going with a broader sense of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you have not joined me before, Christina has been on before, and I'm trying to have her on quarterly to kind of talk about the economic outlook, retail outlook, what that means for us as resellers. So I will let her introduce herself in a minute, but real quick, while we let people join in, I am going to make a couple of announcements just real quick. So one is, if you are an affiliate for the dashboard, or you have the dashboard and you want to be an affiliate, I have increased that to a 35% payout. I'm realizing it takes a lot of work to be an affiliate and to make posts and come up with content. So I really want to make sure to pay you guys accordingly for that. So you can go ahead, and the information for that is down below. It's like a 2-minute process to sign up to be an affiliate, and then you get your own link, and then you get a 35% payout for that. So if you're already an affiliate, that's already gone into effect. You're automatically getting it. If you want to become an affiliate, you can click the link down below. The second thing is, if you guys don't know, I do have a podcast as well. Those YouTube, Instagram, and a podcast as well. So you can head on over. The link for that is down below as well. Podcasts you can support. So on YouTube, you get paid revenue from advertisers. On a podcast, you can support podcasts. So if you like the content, you can pay as little as like $1 to be a support. So if you like my content, make sure to become, I think they call it a monthly subscriber. I don't know what it's called, but there's a little support button, and it's like 90, you can do more, but it's as little as 99 cents a month. So I'd really appreciate that, because this is my time and I appreciate giving the content, and it lets me know that it's something that you guys do appreciate. There are a couple people asking in the chat, so while we wait for people to log on, today was my first day of remote learning. Me and Christina were talking about that a little. I'm here, so I made it. It was as bad as I thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. I didn't have high hopes. We couldn't get logged on this morning. Zoom went down nationwide, so then we couldn't get on Zoom calls with teachers, and we had to go to Google. And I have 3 kids and little kids and managing, and so if me and my husband make it through this year and we're still married, I feel like, because I was bitching at him. He's like, why are you yelling at me? I'm like, I don't know, because you're the only person around. So, but I'm here and I'm excited to be talking with Christina. My business is kind of taking a back seat, so I'm going to be looking forward to these calls, I think, a little bit more than normal, because I've done very little business things today. So while we wait for people to log on, I will let Christina introduce herself, tell us a little bit about her background. She has a great Facebook, or a great Instagram, so definitely make sure to follow her on Instagram. I don't have the link. While you chat, I will go to your Instagram and I'll put that in the comments. So Christina, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Christina Bowe. I have a corporate finance background, but I'm not working right now. I actually quit a little over a year ago to get a certification, which I was able to pass both exams. I'll brag for a moment. Only 43% of people pass on their first try. It's a global certification, so I was proud of myself there. But once I passed, COVID hit, and so I'm kind of branching out into some other things, since we have time with the job market and things going as they are. And so I mentioned earlier, I'm starting a blog. So I'm learning how to build websites with WordPress, and it's not going too well.
Oh yeah, that's
new tools to put in the toolbox. But I've been reselling since 2015. I'm on PoshMark, Depop, and then Mercari, but Mercari's kind of taken a back seat. I have a hard time juggling a lot of things. I know, Sarah, you do eBay. I don't do eBay. I have not ventured out into that yet, but maybe.
well, and see, I don't do Mercari or Depop. I'm the same way. I have to keep it minimal, especially right now. I'm having to take a step back. Are you doing the WordPress all on your own, like self-taught, or do you have people that can help you? Because it's intense.
Well, just, you Google and YouTube. I did do Bluehost for my host, and then I bought a template and I imported that, and then now I'm just kind of figuring out, how to make it look pretty and where to put pictures and how to post a blog post and all that fun stuff. So I got a little frustrated and had to back out of it today.
It's very frustrating. I'm asking because so my website is in WordPress. It's nice because you can have control over the back end, but then you have to know how to do a lot more than like if you were to do other sites. And I built like 60% of it, but my brother does WordPress stuff. He speaks at like their conventions. And so if you have questions, that's why I'm asking.
Yes.
If you have questions and you're like, oh my God, because he's like, well, it's easy, just look that up. But I'm like, but I don't even know the words to look up. Like, I don't even know what to Google. What you just told me is like a foreign language. I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he does it in like 30 seconds. And I'm like, okay, cool. So if you have questions,
take you up on it, because it was hard just to get the template imported. It was supposed to be really easy, and it wasn't for me. So
once you get there, because mine is, now that it's there, it's pretty easy to maintain. But my website is not anything spectacular by any means. It could be a lot better, but once you get there, so if you get to a point where you're like, I don't know what to do from here, let me know. That's not the topic on hand. So the topic on hand today, thank you guys for joining. This is my normal accountability call. We are going to talk other things in accountability as a special guest, mostly because I'm remote learning and I don't have time to do more YouTube videos. So I wanted Christina to come on, and we're kind of overtaking this accountability call. But for those of you who normally join the accountability call, please feel free to leave your comments if you guys met your goals last week, what your big successes were, and then also what you're going to be working on for this coming week. And then we'll kind of go over it next Monday as well. In today's video, though, we are talking about economic trends, retail trends, e-commerce trends, how it translates to selling on social media, and much, much more. Christina sent me over like pages of notes, so I'm excited to hear all about it. Let's get right in. Feel free to ask questions as we go as well. Christina is definitely a wealth of knowledge and does her research. She's not making these things up. She actually does her research and really knows what she's talking about. So let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about the economy. The pandemic hit last time you were here. I don't know, it was a couple months ago. I think it had been like a month or two, and so we were kind of trying to figure out what was happening with it beginning of summer. If you want to kind of give us an update on what you're seeing over the summer.
Yeah, actually, I think a lot of the things that we talked about have kind of held true. People, been, I guess I'll call it kind of nesting, very focused on home, games, redecorating, home improvement, things like that. Now that we've kind of gotten through the summer, I think it's shifting a little more towards, you just mentioned it, back to school, and that looks so different now. Electronics have been a huge seller, but now I'm hearing today there's a shortage of laptops because of all of the kids learning from home. So, supplies have been more along the lines of home office and getting that set up, and office supplies and those types of things. So retail sales have actually really bounced back to pre-pandemic levels, but there's a lot of things that are kind of fueling that. Home purchases, car purchases are up. There's really low interest rates, a lot of good deals. A lot of people have realized they want a yard, or they want a pool, or they want something different than what they've had because they're on a staycation right now.
Because we're spending all of our time in our house.
Yes. So they realize things aren't working for them. So that's driving quite a bit of it.
How does this, because unemployment is at like a high. So how is, I mean, to me, that's kind of doesn't make, like, people are out buying new things, but then a lot of people are unemployed.
Yeah, and so unemployment is still high. The job growth and the jobless claims have been around 1 million a week or so, and then the job growth has been it was a little slower this last month. I think it was 1.7, whereas the 2 previous months were over 3 million. So it's kind of leveled out. Unemployment's dropped a little bit. I think 10.2 was the last number I saw. But a lot of analysts, investors, actually Goldman Sachs is predicting a 27% increase in the GDP in Q3. So a lot of talk about this V recovery once states open up and folks get back to work. And the GDP had dropped 30%. So it's not quite back to pre-pandemic on that. But consumer spending is, I think, 70% of the GDP. So it's a big driver, and consumer confidence is something that's going to be really big going into the next 2 quarters. But the shift has begun. I mentioned just with things, people are more focused on wellness, fitness, things for the house versus clothing sales. So clothing sales actually had a year-over-year decline versus the other goods.
Yeah, and I think I talk about this a lot on my channel, but I think we had mentioned it at the beginning when we had talked about how people were still spending, but it had kind of shifted. And I do mostly clothes and purses, and so that had kind of gone down. But over the course of the summer, I've been getting electronics from different places and home goods, and that is like booming. So that's something to keep mind of, that if things are slow for you, look at the market, look at the economics, see what is working. If you're on eBay, even if you don't use eBay, but if you're on eBay, you can look at their data to see what is selling. You can look at various different places on the internet just to kind of get an idea of what's selling. But home goods, electronics definitely are selling. I do have a couple questions though. So you had mentioned the confidence, and I don't want to get political by any means, but it is an election year, and it's definitely a very, very heated election. How does that go into Q3 and the consumer confidence, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's not even just the election, it's the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of good news right now on the therapeutics and the vaccine side. So that's going to drive consumer confidence as well. I think the biggest unknown right now is kids getting back into school and people getting back into their offices. Retailers have just had no idea how to stock for back to school, because typically, it's a lot of clothing purchases and supplies and that type of thing. And that they just, it's not there because not all the kids are going back to school, and then some are starting back to school and then they're back at home after a couple of weeks if cases spike. So I think that's going to be the biggest piece, is do people kind of rally back around I don't want to spend anything because I don't know what's going to happen with homeschooling and what their needs are going to be. And then you still have the just vacations and other things. They said travel will be the last thing to come back, which, for resellers, travel related, vacation related items typically can be a big seller. And they say that's going to be the last thing. But then everyone I talk to really wants a vacation and really wants to get out. They've been trapped in their house. So we'll see. I think it's just
it's hard though. I mean, I want a vacation too, but just with all the standards. Someone is asking if you can talk just a bit louder or maybe get a little closer. Yeah. I mean, I can hear you fine, but it may not be transferring over. Well, what's hard with the vacations is even if we want to go out, a lot of places internationally, but even in the States, are closing borders. My husband's from the Boston area, and they were supposed to come, his parents were supposed to come visit us, and with everything and their health, they didn't want to come out. So he was like, well, I'm working from home. Let me just go stay with them for a week. It's less risk because it's just me. They've closed their borders down. You can't, I mean, it's like this big, huge thing. So even if we want travel, I don't think, I agree. Like that's going to be the last thing, because until they get this under control, and especially internationally, a lot of America's not the place. We're the hot spot. A lot of places have definitely
I'm in Tennessee, and we're on I know we're on a quarantine list in Pennsylvania and New York. So even if I wanted to travel to certain places, I would have to be quarantined. So you're not traveling for that amount of time anyway.
That's how it was to go to mass, and then he'd have to be gone for that long, and I was like, no, you cannot leave me with 1 week. Okay, I'll survive, especially because no one wants to help take care of the kids because of COVID, right? We've had no help with the kids. So this is all, I mean, it seems very exciting, and I've also heard too that it's kind of going to make up for what we lost over the past couple of months. People are going to be wanting to spend kind of what they've made up, and then going into the holiday season for resellers, hopefully more online spending. Have you heard that as well, or what do you?
Yes, they're continuing to see a huge acceleration to online. Even when the stores opened up, I think people were just concerned about going shopping out in the stores again. And
Mhm.
so online has still continued and is still continuing to grow. In fact, Target and Walmart, I think both had really high earnings this last time because of that. Although they're not wanting to put any earnings projections out for the next quarter because of back to school and the uncertainty there. But yes, online is still really huge. I mean, people, I think, got used to having things delivered or ordered online. I don't see that changing. Especially after things open up, there's a convenience factor there.
Mhm.
Also, people are still bored. They're at home. They're browsing, and so online is just fill in the time as well. So that as long as there's quarantines, I think online is going to continue to be the number one means.
So, I mean, this is all very, very hopeful. And something to this note too, so a lot is going online. There's been some bankruptcies in store places as well,
Yeah.
right? And how is that going to kind of, one, as a reseller, impact our reselling? You know,
Yeah.
like if these places have gone bankrupt, is it something that's going to cause the demand to go up, or a place we shouldn't be sourcing these
Yeah.
brands anymore? And then also if they're coming, people aren't shopping at malls anymore, is that going to also help? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, malls, I think you're going to see a huge change in commercial real estate in general, not just office
Mhm.
spaces. In fact, I heard today they're thinking of potentially changing office spaces to low-income housing because there's going to be so many vacancies as companies decide to keep people working remote as opposed to paying for rent. But from the mall perspective, Amazon is actually looking at putting distribution centers in some of the old JCPenney stores that are closing,
Oh.
which would be even better for the online consumer because then they can meet their delivery times, and their same day delivery is much easier if they have distribution centers that are closer to where everyone is living. So that's
But
something.
then,
Go ahead.
I mean, it's good for online consumers, but then for us as itty bitty resellers, it almost makes it harder because then they're wanting, like, we're competing with Amazon. People are like, I
Yep.
want free shipping and I want it to me. And
Now.
like, yeah.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where eBay's headed. They're trying to compete with Amazon. And as an itty bitty retailer, it's like, oh, well, that's hard to get free shipping out
Yeah.
of my profit and get it there, shipped out the same day.
Yeah. So there's actually they're projecting about 25,000 stores are expected to close, and mostly in malls. The bankruptcies, the ones that I thought the newest one was Stein Mart. That's more of a shopping
Mm.
center. Their reason mostly was they expanded too much into the north. It was more of a southern type of style and aesthetic, and it didn't resonate. And all of these retailers had a lot of debt, and now that things have kind of shifted away from retail, they're having a hard time refinancing that debt. So a lot of the bankruptcies are restructuring as well. They're not necessarily liquidation. But Lane Bryant, Catherine's, and Cacique, which were part of the Ann Taylor. So Ann Taylor, Loft, Justice, all of those filed bankruptcy a couple months ago, I think, or a month ago. But the plus size market, the Lane Bryant, Catherine's, and Cacique, that could leave a huge gap in plus size. Just availability of plus size clothes, in the mall for one. And I don't know what that'll do to sourcing. It could potentially drive prices up from a resale perspective because people will no longer be able to get maybe a favorite fit of pants or jeans or something that they've been buying for years from Lane Bryant. So
So Lane Bryant is, because bankrupt doesn't always mean that they're shutting down. They just kind of restructure, but Lane Bryant is actually shutting down stores.
That whole group is shutting down a majority of their stores.
Yeah. Okay. So it is going to.
Yeah, but the Limited, they shut down all their stores but stayed online. So I don't know
Oh, really?
if that's something that they're planning to do. I didn't read that.
Okay.
But the majority of the stores are going to be closing. They said most, if not all, of that whole group. And then the same thing with New York and Company. They're closing most, if not all, of their stores. We already mentioned Penny's, Neiman Marcus, J. Crew, I think we mentioned the last time,
Yeah.
Brooks Brothers, Lord & Taylor, Joseph A. Bank, which is also Men's Warehouse. And then this one I didn't see. It was G-Star and Lucky Brand. I thought that was interesting, that they had filed bankruptcy. But Lucky
I
Brand's
haven't heard
kind of
that
that
one.
boho. I don't think it doesn't resell very well for me. But there may be some. I know it's definitely a brand that has a large following.
Yeah, it definitely does. It doesn't sell very high for me, but
Yeah.
it sells. But if you look like the retail of it, it's a mall brand, so the original retail is like 50, $60. But it has a following. If you have like the right cut, I've noticed people
Yeah.
like look for
Boots.
certain, yes, boots for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lucky boots and shoes, those always sell well.
Yeah. And jeans too. I mean, they don't sell high. I can sell a pair of jeans for like 10 to 15, so not super high, but most of the Lucky jeans that I've had will sell. All right, so I think we've covered kind of economic, kind of a high level economic retail. Feel free to ask questions too if you guys have questions as we're going through this. I just learned how to use, there we go. I just learned how to use these banners. So I do have one that says ask questions. So we've kind of covered a high level. Let's get a little bit deeper into how this is impacting us as resellers, e-commerce, a little bit, more micro on that level.
Yeah. So really interesting. I think it was a McKinsey study this time. The last time I think I talked about KPMG did a study. This one is McKinsey, so another consulting group. But they found 3 emerging e-commerce growth trends. And I thought they were all pretty spot on with some things that Poshmark is doing and that we've heard about at PoshFest and directions that they're going. But the first being personalization. So as the mall stores are closing, they are looking for ways online to mirror an in-store experience. So when they say personalization, they're saying more, offering suggestions of, would you like this or that? Do you need a different, think of the person at the store who asks you if you need a different size or gives suggestions when you're in the dressing room. So
or even just says hello as you walk in, right?
Yes.
Like, hello, how are you? I'm here
Yeah.
if you need anything, right?
Yeah. It recognizes that you're a rewards member or repeat buyer or something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
But it offers suggestions. So based on browser and purchase history, which I think a lot of websites already do that. But really trying to mimic an in-store experience online. And I know that, Poshmark, when they rolled out the stylist feature, the intention was that was a bit of a personalization, bringing the seller stylist and that personalized touch to the buyer on Poshmark.
Which I would agree, like with everything that you're saying, I think it's great. I'm wondering how, as resellers, we can do it, because I think maybe Poshmark has the intent to do it, but they still don't. Like, I've tried to do the style feature and it's hard, because if Poshmark could tell me, hey, this person is this size and this, go to my like, here's some, like, and helps me, I'm like, I'm not going to go look at their size and their style and go to my 1,000 item store and scroll through it and style them. So I think the intent is good, but if people who are watching have ideas on how to kind of, and I don't know eBay well enough, so if anyone's watching eBay, I'm not sure. I've started, if people buy something, we'll say, hey, I will kind of bundling on eBay, I will include this in your shipment if you would like to look at anything else. But beyond that, I haven't found a good way from a reseller perspective on how to kind of give a bit more of that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really something, as I thought through it, it was more that repeat buyer. So, somebody's already purchased something from you, or say someone's already purchased a bundle. As you restock, maybe reaching out to that person with the bundle feature and, sharing something that you have to that person and saying, hey, I just restocked or put this in my closet. It's a new listing. I know you purchased something similar, or you'd like something similar, I would take a look.
Yeah, but even that, and I'm not coming out on you because you're not Poshmark, obviously. But I mean, even that they don't like. So in my dashboards, you can export your Poshmark sales report and inventory report, and there's a graph that tells you your repeat customers.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like Poshmark doesn't tell you that. As far as I know, eBay doesn't tell you that either, which I think it would be huge, because then we could say, hey, you've already purchased from us. Here's some, like I would give a credit, or I would give a bigger discount if I knew. I ran a report on Poshmark for the whole year. So we're now, you know, more than halfway through. And I was astonished at how many repeat buyers I had. I mean, I was excited, but I was like, I had no idea that these people were coming back, which is good, because then obviously they like, you know, and their customers. And I think that is something. So on that note, PoshFest is coming up and they do a hackathon. I don't know if they've already put together all of that. But those who are watching, that may be something that you guys can reach out to Poshmark and say, hey, like, how do we encourage this? Is this something you guys are looking into? I'm making a note. I'm going to send them a message too, because
even if buyers, if you could have access to see their likes when you go to style them. I think that's a frustration, is you have a lot of people who aren't selling their own closets on Poshmark. And so when you did this, I shut the stylist thing off. But when I would get suggestions, you know, I would go to their closet and try to see, you know, but do you know, is it really their taste, or is it things that they're reselling? You don't really know. It's almost like we need a Pinterest board type of, you know, maybe somebody's likes or something like that, some sort of a style board where you know what their style is. Because I personally have a lot of different styles in my closet, as do you. And so, you know, is somebody boho, or are they, you know, casual, or are they more formal, or are they looking for work, where, you know, you really don't know, because you're just kind of, you know, in the dark.
Yeah. And it's hard to go through your, like if I was like, okay, I like this one item. And oftentimes I'm like, I like this one item. Let me go look in their closet. And if they have a large closet, it's hard to shift through, you know, and figure out, okay, this isn't my style. And after scrolling for like a minute, I'm like, I'm done. So if someone has a large closet, they could have other items, but I don't have a way to figure that out. I was going to say something else, but now I don't know.
Okay.
So there we go.
The next one was social commerce, which is this is I guess for those Instagram users who have a lot of followers and have the ability, but sell products direct through social media, as opposed to marketing your shop links. So being able to just click right on your social media post and purchase, as opposed to link in bio, which is where I'm at on that.
Oh, me too, because I feel like it's more work. It's not more, it's just different work to have to then, like I accidentally sold a couple things last week on Instagram. And I was like, yeah, I guess you can buy it. But then I had to like go to PayPal and I had to make an invoice, and then I had to go buy that, like all of that stuff, which is fine. But I wasn't intentionally doing that. But I'm wondering if this is, and we had talked about this in our last chat about ThreadUp coming, and how something we can do to set ourselves apart is to be like more personalized and give better customer service. And I started to wonder if people, I feel like maybe the younger generations too, a little bit want more of that, like support local business and kind of trying to cut out that third person. And so social media, it's a time, I mean, you have to Christina's point, you have to have a following to make this work. So it is time consuming to get to that following, but that's good to know that it could eventually pay off, right?
Yes. And then the last one is interactive. So product visuals, 360-degree views, and videos. And I guess Posh is adding video through the stories. But, you know, other applications like Depop and Vinted, when I was on that back in the day, they had video in the listing. I think, does eBay have video in the listing?
Not that I'm aware of. If anyone in the chat knows, I don't use it if they have it.
Yeah. So that's the big thing, is they're wanting to see, because people are shopping more online, they want to see the details and the full view, and potentially video. So I think that's a piece where resellers can really shine, especially since, you know, I think Poshmark, Depop only has 4 photos, but Poshmark and Mercari have 12 to 16 now. They're giving you a lot more options as opposed to making a collage or something else to try to fit all of the different things in. But just being real specific with your photos and giving all those views and, thinking about, would you buy this online if with just the views that you're giving? Even looking at retailers. I mean, I know a lot of retailers embed video in there.
Yeah, because you want to see like how it moves, and it sucks. I don't want to have to do it as a reseller because it's more time consuming.
Yes.
But from a consumer, it totally makes sense because you don't get to see it and feel it, and you don't know if it's stiff.
Right.
Oh, Leslie is saying Etsy has video now as well. I'm wondering, as you were talking, I'm wondering what this will do if Poshmark will ever change their returns policy. Because I think it's hard. I've heard a lot of people who only purchase on Poshmark are very turned off by it because we all know the return policy. And you're competing with Amazon, right? Who has like 3 returns, you can do whatever. And even eBay pushes that really hard as well. I'm wondering if Poshmark will ever steer away. As a seller, I appreciate it. But from a consumer perspective, I'm wondering if that'll change.
Yeah, and I mentioned the last time too that the Walmart partnership with ThredUp has free returns. Regular ThredUp has a restocking fee, I think, on the majority of their items. So, the trend is going that way. So I think they're going to have to look at it at some point. Depop,
especially for fit
seller, if they want to do a return or not. I don't have returns on my closet there.
Yeah, I don't do Depop. I can only do. I put a whole bunch of items on. One item sold the same time it sold on eBay. And you know how eBay is, like you cannot cancel a listing on eBay. So I had to cancel on Depop, and I was like, I'm done. I can only manage so many stores at one time. So
agree.
Oh, Leslie is saying, but even if you don't, and because this is curious, Leslie says, I don't fight returns. I tell Poshmark to allow my customers to return their items. I can always sell again. I'm very much in the same boat. I rarely will fight unless they're like unless it's like they're taking a picture of a completely different item, like something that's obviously ridiculous. I'm usually like, I'm sorry you weren't happy, like blah, blah, blah. Like I don't fight it either. And a lot of times Poshmark will still deny the return.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've had 1 return in the 5 years I've been selling on there.
Wow.
I was so upset about it too, and because it was,
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, and so they won't do that. And I don't have many. I probably had maybe a handful of them, but most of the time I'm like, well, if you're not happy, like I'm not going to fight you. And there was one time, there was one, and I was completely in the wrong. I had 2 items that were similar. And so when it was getting listed, I put the one picture with the measurements of the other item. And then like I got them. And so she sent it. It was a Nike shirt. And she was like, well, it doesn't have the swoosh sign. And I was like, oh, well, the measurement pictures has the swoosh sign, but the front doesn't. And I was like, that's completely my bad. Like, you're right. Like half of the pictures have them, half of them don't. I completely understand. And she's like, okay, well, you admitted it, so I'll keep it. I was like, oh, I would have taken it. It was my fault. But I'm wondering if their policy will change because, like, as a buyer, I want, especially for clothes, I want to be able to try it on. Before I.
And just thinking that they've expanded to, obviously they have kids and men's. I mean that's a whole another thing. Your kids grow fast. It's not like they can wear something for very long anyway. So I think it would probably encourage a lot more sales if there was the capability of returns.
For sure. Christina, that's amazing. More than 2,000 sales. I've had around 5 returns. That's good too. That's a very low rate.
Yes.
Especially on Poshmark. eBay returns, I constantly have 1 or 2 open because they allow for fit, right? And so people buy items and then they return for fit. All right, so I think we've kind of covered what's happening e-commerce. Can we maybe start to look a little ahead? What is going to happen we talked a little bit about Q3, but Q3 into the holiday season as well.
Yeah, I already mentioned online will continue to accelerate. So what they're predicting for the holidays, continued online and very price conscious. Lots of sales and people being very price conscious. And, you know, a lot of that will have to do with, you know, unemployment benefits. Is there going to be another stimulus, that type of thing? So I think as the lockdowns and things continue, people's price consciousness is going to increase. So something to think about. Prime Day, they actually, I forgot to mention this with back to school, they moved it. Prime Day, Amazon Prime Day is usually in July. They moved it to October. So Prime Day is really going to be what kicks off the season. So it'll be interesting to see what their results are there. And then just out of curiosity, I would probably see, you know, what the top sellers are there to give kind of an indication of what people may be looking for the holiday season. And they're saying that reviews are going to be really crucial on what people are looking for gifts. So if you're someone who does buy things online, make sure that you leave a review if you like it or don't like it, because a lot of people will be looking towards those reviews. And then,
that's interesting. I never look at them, but my husband's like the best. No, and this is why he researches it. If we're looking to get something, and I go on Amazon and I'm like, Amazon recommended, 4 stars, cool, I'm good. And he is like, 3 days later, he's looked at all the videos, he's like built spreadsheets about, I'm like, this is why you purchase all of the expensive things, because I'd be like, it's fine.
And then well-being is emerging as a huge trend. And I actually had seen something, I didn't have this one in my notes, but the luxury retailers, I read an article that said that if the luxury retailers that don't focus on well-being are not going to have a good holiday season. So I'm interested to see how luxury retailers, what they decide to do with their products, or how they decide to move into the well-being field. Skincare and lotions and things like that have been selling really well during the pandemic too. So, you know, is that where they're going, or is it going to be robes, or, you know, more loungewear, or, you know, just what
like
is
athletic and
well-being going to be from a luxury perspective?
Yeah, I wanted to note too, my husband told me today, Walmart, or yesterday, I think he told me, but Walmart, all the days are kind of blending together at this point. Walmart is actually announced that they're not doing Black Friday. They are closing on normal time Wednesday, so the day before Thanksgiving. They're closed Thanksgiving, and they're opening normal time on Friday, and not doing, maybe online they'll do something, but they're not doing their big Black Friday in person, which I thought was like, because Walmart's usually like, we're open all night, 24 hours, and come in at 6 a.m. and we have something every hour. You know, they're usually like all over it. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think I heard Target was doing the same. They've decided to be, you know, they've been open Thanksgiving Day in the past several years too, and they've decided to have their stores closed on Thanksgiving Day. You know, I think it's a good thing to do. I never really, I was always wondering what the sales were on that day to be open anyway. But yeah, I think it's just that shift towards, you know, thinking about just health and wellness and their employees, and allowing them to spend time with their families, and the shift to online. Is it really worth having the store open on those days?
Yeah. Well, and if consumers are shifting to, you know, well-being, like you said, letting them be home with their family, we can all wait a day, you know. Oh, Janice Marie is saying it was to show their employees appreciation for the dedication during pandemic, which I mean, that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Where you want to go next? You want to talk reseller trends then?
Yeah, we can. I did have a quick question though, and I don't know if you like specifically looked at this, but as we were talking, I remember talking about it last time, so I want to kind of bring it up and see if you had any thoughts.
Yeah.
We were talking about, so all big stores order ahead, you know, seasons a year ahead and everything. So we had kind of talked about they ordered seasons ahead, and now, you know, people aren't buying as much. What are they going to be doing with that? Are they going to push trends to the next season? Are they selling off more liquidation? And then if that's the case, that's going to oversaturate the reselling market, right? And so I don't know if you had seen or heard anything on that.
It's actually kind of a mess right now in the retail world. So there was kind of some, for lack of a better term, shady stuff that happened between suppliers and retailers when they canceled orders that were already put into production. So what happens is the manufacturer is kind of left holding the bag because they're not paid for an order until after it's complete, but because they had already received the order, they started it. So a lot of suppliers were left with unfinished product that they weren't going to be paid for. And so they're not taking orders from retailers now because of that. So some relationships were really severed over the inventory. So, and also when retailers were on the fence about keeping it or pushing it or putting it to liquidation, a lot of them actually decided to keep it for next year. So I don't know that there was a large flood of inventory. And then retailers like Old Navy and others are doing a lot of donations for people who are impacted by the pandemic. So
love that. Well, so that seems fairly hopeful from a reseller perspective that they weren't being oversaturated, and then maybe some of the trends that we were keeping an eye out for this year are just going to be prolonged into the coming year. And then probably like I've already started to see some of the masks that match the fabric, you know, like people are the designer matching and then probably like some robes, athletic wear, more leisure wear than before. Okay. Well, and that can kind of lead us into some of the trends that were coming up. Actually, I do want to, I'm going to take it back one more step. We were talking about personalization and selling online and stuff. And we had talked a little bit about, and I think you had mentioned it on your Instagram too, about influencers and kind of what's happening. If you're going to start promoting yourself and give this personalization on social media, how should you be doing it? And what should you be doing to kind of, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually glad Leslie's on because she does a really good job with this. So there's a lot of backlash actually against influencers. A lot of people have just had fatigue over influencers and feel that their image is nothing but a facade. A lot of people were very upset about people flaunting, you know, Chanel bags and this and that while there's so many people unemployed. And so they're actually slashing marketing budgets to influencers. If you're not one of the top draws, you know, they're not eliminating, but marketers are being much more picky with who they're choosing and slashing those budgets. And they said the shift, even though more people are on social media than ever before, there's actually a shift to authenticity, accountability, transparency, and reality. And I feel that us as resellers, you had mentioned the whole, you know, shop from a small business, you know, support an individual. A lot of people are supporting, you know, really supportive of side hustles right now because, you know, for a lot of people, the side hustle is their main hustle during the pandemic. And so I think as resellers, we really have a leg up on that if we have, you know, the authentic and real message.
Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, I'm putting like explanation points here because I think it's really good. If someone told me that I am always like sunshine and butterflies, and I think you kind of have to be like, some of what you've said is drew me, but you have to take some of that and make it into the positive. And I think what we can take out of a lot of this as resellers, I mean, even if you're not necessarily on social media, but being authentic and being upfront and honest, and just being a real person, because I think people are really starting to see that human connection and wanting that as opposed to these big buyers. And quick note for an eBay story. I am big on, I mean, being real and honest, like that return on Poshmark. I was like, you know what, that's totally my bad. I should have done it instead of arguing and fighting for something that I was wrong in. The same thing happened on eBay. And on eBay, if you get a negative review, it's like bad news bears. And so it was an item not as described, and it was completely my fault. And I was like, it's my fault. Like, I'm sorry. I thought I checked it. Apparently I didn't. Anyways, we went back and forth and she was like, you know what? I'd like to change my review because even though the item was not as described, you've been stellar in your customer service. And so it's still just having that connection and not just being like, well, blah, 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 you know, and going off the deep end on them, still having good customer service and being a person, I think can still set us apart and get you those sales, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the kindness, you know, it was part of the personalization is just the, you know, being friendly and warm, you know, as individuals, with, I think we all have frustrations with buyers, but, I really feel like we have a leg up there and, you know, able to sell things, but sell it sell our own style. I mean, have somebody, you know, I think they want to know who they're buying from and what they're buying and appreciate, you know, what resellers do.
Right. Sorry, making a note. And
yeah, it was authenticity, accountability, transparency, and reality.
Yeah, which I think we can definitely have a leg up and just be real. So let's go into reseller trends now and kind of what, as resellers, we can look at going into the quarter 3 and quarter 4 of the holiday season.
Yeah, yeah. So some of this is kind of a repeat of some things we've probably already touched on, but StockX, if you're familiar with them, they do a lot of sneaker sales. They've reached 2.5 billion in gross merchandise revenue. They've had a lot of growth during the pandemic. But the thing that I found very interesting was that sales to 45 plus year old buyers are up 30% for them. And so even as people are shifting, reselling becoming, you know, more acceptable and growing, you know, last time we talked, it was the kind of Gen Z that was really driving it with their, you know, want to 90s and vintage. But to see that 45 plus were buying sneakers up 30%, I thought that was interesting. And
that's kind of, I mean, it's mostly sneakers. I wonder if that translates to other sales as well. But that's kind of exciting for me because I'm getting to the I'm not really cool stage anymore. But I appreciate the 45 plus because they tend to spend more money, right? Like and especially like career wear. I love it's not, I mean, some of it's cute, but it's not anything fancy and trendy and, you know, Depop, but like people will buy it and they pay good price for it. And so that's kind of exciting that you don't have to be a Depop kind of seller to be able to be a reseller, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And nothing wrong with Depop. I know you're on Depop. I'm just saying, like, sometimes I feel like I'm not cool enough to be a reseller.
You know what? If I'm selling something, fake it, you know. And then according to Refinery 29, which I don't know if you're familiar with that website, it's mostly geared towards New York millennials, but they do have a lot of fashion and trend information in their articles. But they said that interest in secondhand clothing has actually grown during the pandemic. You know, at first people were afraid about how COVID was transferred and didn't want to buy things from other people's homes. But, you know, once the information came out that it didn't really live on surfaces, and people were seeing, you know, what resellers and others were doing to be safe, it actually grew during the pandemic. And it's expected to grow 27% in 2020, which is actually a huge number for a segment. And so even though I mentioned this already, even though stores open, people are still shopping at home, quarantine-induced boredom and browsing. And this kind of ties into the chats we've had this week about the relist, but resale has constant new arrivals, and that's a huge draw for buyers. And then rethinking values, sustainability, buy less but better quality. Used allows access to or accessibility to those higher quality brands. Supporting small business that you mentioned, and then price. Resale typically has a lower price than retail. So those are the drivers.
And you touched on this, and I'm going to have you just talk a minute about it, but I am going to I did put Christina's Instagram in the chat, which I should keep it open. Sometimes YouTube turns it off. So if you're watching this in the recording and a chat's not up there, just leave a comment and I'll turn it back on. I'm still learning YouTube. But Christina mentioned the relisting feature really quickly on Poshmark. If you guys have been following social media a little bit, they're saying that I'm going to let you explain it because you did really good write-up on your Instagram, and I'm going to fumble around as I say it. So I'm going to let you explain it. Just a quick overview, and then you can follow, go over to her post and read a little bit more about it. But I thought it was kind of relevant in what we're talking about.
Yeah, the copy feature. So there was some feedback from Poshmark that when you use the new copy feature, that the items were not appearing in Just In any longer. Then I think through the day, some people had other information, and it turns out it does appear in Just In if it's over 60 days that it's been listed, but under 60 days, it does not appear in Just In. And one of the reasons that was cited from someone or that was in there, I thought maybe it had to do with their inventory valuation and not wanting to double count things, but it seems that it's more along the Just In that I mentioned, and that they want to have a fresh feed, and so that's why they chose the 60-day cutoff, so that some the items that are in Just In are really just that. They're new items listed for the first time. And some people were saying, I don't really shop Just In. What's the importance of it? And it's actually very important in retail. If you go to any website, H&M, Zara, ASOS, they all, the first thing you click on, it says new arrivals. And people always go to new arrivals. They go to back in. So it's things that sold out and then are back in stock. Those are where you really see all the trends and where things are going. And so I think especially if someone's looking for an item, a specific item, they don't allow you to save a search on Poshmark like other apps. But, if you're specifically looking for something, Just In is where you're going to go look for it, because you want to make sure, see, did anybody list what I'm looking for? It's also, a great place to find good deals from, new resellers or people just cleaning out their closets. So I think Just In is a really important piece, and they just, for whatever, because of this trend of the constant new arrivals and resale, they want to keep that feed fresh.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. I wonder though, because you had mentioned too about just not double counting things. I wonder too if that's part of it, because they're not overly sophisticated in how they manage their data. So I wouldn't be surprised if your whole
60 days is their cutoff, and so they're refreshing their evaluation. Like I mentioned, the StockX evaluation, they're redoing that on a 60-day cycle. I think just personally, I think there are some things. The feature was great, but it not deleting the original and leaving the copy out there. I see a lot of closets where people have double of all of their listings. A lot of people aren't taking copy out of the title. And I mean, you can just put copy in your search bar and Poshmark, and you can see all of them that pop up. So as a buyer, am I really going to want to purchase a listing that says copy? So I think there's some things just really to think about. And it's more, they put a lot of the maintenance of it, I think, on the user, and didn't give really clear direction on how to use it. You had to kind of figure it out on your own. You had to delete the other listing. So
get rid of the copy. And
yeah. So there's some tweaks, I think, that need to be done. And maybe, hopefully this discussion this week will drive some of those refinements.
Yeah, for sure. And I think on Poshmark too, I mean, a lot, like, we're all resellers, but the majority of Poshmark is not that. And so trying to put all of that on people who aren't like doing it. Most people are like cleaning out their closets and like selling kids, like they're not, like, we're out there on Instagram, YouTube, finding out, but that's not the majority of Poshmark. So if they're going to roll out these new features, making sure that either there's quality checks to make sure that you can't duplicate, or teaching the users how to use it. But that is not part of the discussion today. I just wanted to have a side note because it is kind of popular right now, and so if people hadn't heard that was kind of happening, I did want to touch on that. So I'm just going to let you finish out with that, because we are getting, I can go over a few minutes, but we are getting towards the end. If you want to finish out kind of with things to look forward, moving forward.
Yeah, so the July top sellers, we mentioned wellness. Yeah, on Etsy, the top 2 sellers were masks and then mask chains, which are similar to like an eyeglass
Oh,
chain, and then you can have your mask hang on them. They've got 2 hooks on the end. Um, Sweatshirts, leggings, hoodies, silk scarves for masks, statement earrings and brooches. Because people are on a lot of Zoom calls, and then what they're calling the
mhm.
Zoom shirt. So blouses are up 30%, but pants sales are down.
Makes
Um,
sense.
and then caftans and loose dresses, so muumuus are back in style again.
That's absolutely, can you see
Like
that's what I
grandma,
have on right now?
yeah.
It's just like a loose, yep. They're
Uh,
so comfortable.
and why we know Y2K is coming back, and then skirts. I thought that was interesting. Those was one of the July top sellers. And then
Apparently, I'm all the rage because I love skirts too, because I hate wearing shorts. I have so many, and I actually sold quite a few in July. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
Um, And then the fall winter trends, really sustainability and wellness. I would really focus on that. And if you're thinking about it, Poshmark has opened up. Some of the lotions and those types of things are allowed on Posh, that were allowed on other sites. That's something that's selling really well. Skincare, not necessarily the makeup that we thought early on, but skincare and just health and beauty
Mhm.
products. And then for the vintage sellers, there's a lot of opportunity. Knitted vests, Argyle, Fair Isle, sweaters, academia, 90s prep, statement collars. So those bow tops, bow collars, 70s, the really pointy collars. It goes back to kind of that Zoom shirt.
Yeah, I was totally thinking that where all you can see is right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Plaid and check prints will continue to be popular. Shearling in coats and jackets, 80s rocker, chunky chain jewelry, and then animal print, of course, but moving toward more snake and zebra. Still leopard, but moving more towards snake and zebra. Zebra seems to be the one that's really popping up everywhere. So.
All right. I did write down, now I don't remember. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Sorry. So Resale Secrets is saying Q4 is great for clothes, except new it
Not
is
great.
not great. Okay, I was like, wait a minute. I was thinking the opposite, but she said not. Thank you. Is not great for clothes except for new with tag. I'm looking for more home decor and new toys for gifts. And I think this is a valid point.
Yeah.
Last December was my first legit December as a reseller. I had started in the December before, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just started doing it. So then it was like I was sourcing for it specifically, and everyone's like, oh, Q4 is great. Q4 is great. And it was like awful. It was my worst month last year in December. And I was like, what is going on? So I've been doing more research. The beginning of the year for used is good because people are, cleaning out their closet, less money, are willing to buy. But for gifts, they want new with tags. That's kind of pushed me into kind of the palette world. I'm getting my first palette this week. So let's hope, fingers crossed, we'll see how it goes. But I kind of haven't done it in the past because I like sourcing. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but I want to get an idea of how it's going to go, and have new attacks for the holiday season and see if that kind of helps my December, because last December was awful.
Yeah, and obviously we don't know, the fitness trend that always seems to happen around January. Is that going to happen with everybody already, being kind of on that athleisure kick because they're working from home. So but I think that's still going to remain a top seller. So something to keep in mind, I guess. But
I
no.
think I think people are in athleisure because they're home, but I feel like the January actually working out will probably still be there because we're still like, now we're home and eating more. And then you also have the holidays on top of it that like January comes and you're like, all right, even my athleisure is not fitting anymore. Like, let me get some actual workout clothes and buy that treadmill and get to it. But I wonder, it'll probably be more home gym type stuff than
Yeah.
gym memberships, right? All right. Well, this was informative as always. I'm glad we got through it all, like right on the dot. We have 2 minutes left. So if anybody does have any questions, feel free to drop them down below. I will let Christina do a little shameless self-promotion again. I don't know if your blog is up or if you want to just have people follow you on Instagram to keep an eye out for that. and anything else that you want to promote. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your knowledge.
Thank you. No, the blog, it's a work in progress. I'm hoping in the next week or two, but follow me on Instagram. I've been kind of testing out some of my topics there, so I appreciate any feedback and things you like to see, and it'll help drive the content that I work towards. So I appreciate you letting me be on and talk about these things. I do find them interesting. So.
Oh yeah, me too. And I want to thank everyone else for joining as well. This will be up in the recording. So if you're watching this in the recording, and now make sure to hit that like button. But if you're watching this in the recording, definitely make sure to hit that like button. Feel free to leave questions. If you have questions and you couldn't make it to the live, if it's something I can answer, I will answer. And if not, I will either make sure Christina comes back and answers, or I'll bug her until she tells me the answer, and I will come back and answer it for you as well. These are always very informative. I am trying to have her on quarterly-ish, so we can do an update. So if you like content like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel, hit that notification so you get notified of my newest content. I am going live on Instagram on Saturday with Daniela from Ivy and Blush. She was in the chat. I'm not sure if she's still hanging out or not, but she was in the chat. So Ivy and Blush, the links are going to be, I think in my stories, I'll push them or something, but follow me on Instagram. I'll be going live talking data with her, and then also on Oh Snazzy. Her name's Yolanda, and now I never type her full name.
That's
I put it
Snazzy, I think.
Yes, thank you. I never type the full names because you type the first two and then the full thing comes up. But I'm also going live with Yolanda talking about a Q&A over the dashboard. So if there's questions that you have, how does this work? What do you do with that? Any questions you have on the dashboard, I will be live on Yolanda's Instagram as well on Saturday, both Saturday mornings. Follow my stories to see links for that, or follow Daniela and Yolanda as well, because we'll be going live on their channel. I do have my What Sold Wednesday, so I will be talking what sold in the last week for me on PoshMark and Instagram this Wednesday. It's every single Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Mountain Standard. I go over all of my sales, show you everything, and then kind of my top brands and any analytics that I've kind of considered or looked at for the week. I'm trying to teach you guys what I look at and how I decide to make decisions for my business to help you guys grow and learn as well. I wrote down notes. Let me make sure I covered everything. Affiliate, if you guys are an affiliate or you want to become an affiliate, the link for that is down below. I have increased that to 35% to make sure to pay you guys accordingly for all of your time and work in that as well. And I do have a podcast in the link down below, so make sure to head on over there and subscribe. That's it. Thank you so much for joining, Christina. Yeah, I know. I tried to get it all out. Thanks for joining. It really is a pleasure, and I really appreciate all of the work that you put into this. And it really is, it's very helpful to me, and then I hope everyone else got some good stuff out of it as well. So make sure to follow her on Instagram, and have a good night.
Bye.